Hello everyone on the internet and thanks for tuning in. I am RyuKiva of RyuKiva Toku.
Welcome to another episode of Toku Bros. I am the Winter Cosplayer, and today,
Tatoba. Go on, carry
and
on.
and as illustriously sung, we're going to be talking about Master Rider OOOs.
O's. Right, so let's get straight into it again. So, what do you remember about O's prior to watching it?
When they mentioned that the gimmicks were medals, I was like, huh? And then they also added animals, and I'm like, huh? Um, and then and then I saw the first image of or screenshots of the suit, and I was still having a lot of what's this kind of thing, really, honestly. Um, I I didn't know what I was gonna be watching, really. It was one of those series that I had no idea what I'm gonna be laying myself in for.
I think for me personally, the only thing I actually knew solidly was what the suit looked like. So I knew it was like boogly green eyes with like the multicolored layers. But then whenever I saw like clips of it subtitled, it's like the fonts that we use would always be like quite kooky. So I was like, what sort of, it kind of almost looked like a sort of Frankenstein, like even not too far from Kiba look. But those are my impressions. Just looking at it prior to actually watching it, not knowing that it was about animals, not knowing the whole Surabashi man or whatever. That was before I knew any of that. That was literal. I knew the suit, what it looked like. I knew nothing of the story and thing as well. Like when I was taking a recess from Kamen Rider at the time, so I didn't actually get to watch the show itself until several years after its broadcast. Anyway, so I had seen O's in certain movie specials, maybe, but again, nothing was really given away whenever I watched O's in any anniversary special. But coming on to actually watching the show, what do you remember of the first few episodes and the opening arcs?
In all honesty, barely anything, except the only thing I will say I remember is rather than your stereotypical riders that you see in the first whatever episode near to the ends that, oh, they then inherit the belt. The main character, he already had it, if I'm not mistaken.
That's such
And
a good question because on one hand, I don't remember if he already had it or not because I remember the whole thing with Ankh being introduced.
yeah,
But then it's like for me, so going on to my opinion, I would say, I love the whole fact that he was like just this random hobo whose main concern was his underwear. I loved how they kind of really established that early on. And then
yes.
like that kind of really bizarre, not quite the usual Kamen Rider cafe that they use. That kind of felt a bit weird, but then, even in those early episodes, I loved how they established the main general, the Mr. Surabashi himself. I absolutely loved it. I loved how batshit crazy that those early arcs were, and even how, say, that rolling intro. So, like, you'd have like the sort of pre-credit, you'd have the pre-opening, and the final couple of seconds of the pre-opening led into the opening song. I absolutely loved that. I was like, wow, this is so cool because it just happened that he was looking at the medals in his hands. Then it's like you count the medals one, two, and three. It just really hits you from the off any given episode.
So I will agree that I do remember the whole hobo-ness, if you were, if we're going to word it that way, and the fact that he's so positive about life in that he basically says this, so long as I have tomorrow's underwear, I'm happy. And
I thought
that's
that was a good message personally. And
it is. It's very you don't need much to live for tomorrow so long as you have that one piece of item to keep you going. And it's very
it's very essential, isn't it?
It is. It's powerful, even if it sounds very daft. And I could be wrong about the belt. Apologies about that. But yeah, like the only one I can think, just to correct myself, that's already
I
pre-inherited
don't
is
think he.
Kiba.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't. This just shows how rubbish our memory is. But like, I would say I don't think he had it from the beginning. I think it was a case of because I remember the whole Ankh being there and him wanting having all the medals and the greed. Yeah, like the whole greed storyline was established. So I'm not because you had the guy from I call him Surabashi Man. I remember he had a pink suit. I remember his final monster form later on was like he had like a rose in the back of his head or something. Uh, I remember them setting it up and like he was like, oh, it's like it's my birthday. So again, this whole craziness. So I
We'll
think
get to that. We'll get
so
to
I think
that
so. I think
later.
we did get to see like the original medals being unveiled, and they kind of escaped, and then all the greeds want to be completed. That's what I remember personally. But whether he actually had it or not, this is so rubbish. We should know this before actually doing this review. But actually, moving on. So less about the story in the episodes. What do we think about the cast for this show?
I actually like, the main character O's. I like Ankh, even though he was almost like a fish out of water kind of character, but that still actually works for the character. I actually liked it. Uh, the chemistry between the two was actually cool. I liked it.
Well, AG and
Um,
Ank, you mean?
who?
Between AG, the O's, and
AGN and
Ank.
yeah, yeah. I love those two. I love those two. Um, Other than that, unfortunately, I don't remember the anyone from anyone else other than a little bit of the character of Birth, but
Birth
that's
was
it.
amazing. See, alright, so like when it comes to AG, he was kind of pretty much a backdrop character, if I'm generally honest, because he was so laid back. But then you
Mm,
had, no, but then it's like, because you had Ankh, who was like based on Hina's brother. And, like the fact that, he was like this really quirky individual, he had like the quirky fashion sense and the quirky hair, even though the brother wasn't. So, like, he kind of mixed it all up, but then he still liked his ice lolly, ice pops and stuff. And then Hina, I mean, a lot of people liked her for the fan service, but I'm not too sure how I felt about that. Plus, she was actually ridiculously young when she did O's. But then the maitre d', I thought, she was quite quick. And she's like, oh, this week we're doing this in the cafe. I actually thought that was quite funny. But the comedy, like the best character award for me personally does have to go, even though I can't remember his name, is the guy who ran the wonderful Happy Birthday Surabashi Man. And he
yes,
had quite, now to be fair, his secretary was
the
like
cake,
all that.
the president or CEO of the organization. Yes, I remember
So
him.
like and then he had like a quirky secretary. But then when it comes to Kamen Rider Birth, who was introduced later on, now I love the seriousness of his character. Like it was kind of a contrast, and again, like at least with the O's, even though it was such a wacky series at the beginning, it did mellow out as the series progressed. And Kamen Rider Birth, like he was quite this serious character. He had a few quirks about him that were different from O's. And then the actor himself is actually a Toku veteran. Like I personally remember him from Tamika Hero, Rescue Force, and Rescue Fire. But
This
actually,
is
I'm
the
not.
actor Birth.
Yeah, the actor for Birth. I'm not. I mean, this is because I'm trying to remember what order they were broadcasting. But for me, I had already watched the Tamika Hero series before I watched those, so I recognised him from that. And I know he's actually appeared in. I know he's actually appeared in Rider a few times before, and Toku in general. I think he has. I think I must have seen him in Sentai as well. But the fact that he got to be Birth was actually, he pulled it off really well in my opinion.
Fair enough.
So, what do we think of the? Well, all right, I'll start this one. The villains. Now, again, I've already said how much I love Surabashi Man, the head of the corporation. I thought it was cool. Like when it comes to the greeds, like the main commanders, like the ones who are like the ones that the medals were based off of. I thought they were quite quirky, and like they're like, oh, I want to complete my set first. I kind of thought that was kind of like a little good kind of competition thingy going on there. But yeah, like to be honest, the monsters of the week were very forgetful. If I'm genuinely honest.
For me, the only one I remember really in regards to the generals was the water chick, the blue chick.
See, I barely remember yeah, like the themes of each medal series. To be fair, because you had like the reds was the like I think they were all
We'll
birds,
get,
weren't they? Yeah.
yeah, we'll get to the forms, but I mean, either way, yeah, I only remember just the blue chick, really. I mean, that's about it. Unfortunately, I don't
I
remember
really
any
remember
of the
Ankh,
others.
to be fair, and he wasn't even a villain. Or he was like there's a word for it. Like he was kind of like in the middle, not a goodie, not a baddie. But
Neutral.
no, well, anyway, yeah, like he was kind of like he was neither side. Yeah, I guess neutral, lack of a better word that I can't think of. All right, so what did we think of the story's progression? Wow.
I see. I don't see. I'm gonna, and this will lead to the suits later on as we get to it. But unfortunately, I barely remember the story really. Unfortunately, but I mean that's
Well, like I mean, all right. So, kind of just to kind of drop the summary a little bit, it was a case of there were these ancient monsters that were like shattered apart, and then their medals their powers were distributed over medals, and then the medals were separated. So, the fact that these monsters then came out of the tomb that they were in, they were like, all right, the one that completes their medal set will be the ultimate mother, you know. And so, each commander was like all about getting their medal set and because you always would have so many medals, finding them one way or another, like defeating monsters of the week and stuff. And then, because again, at the end and beginning of each episode would establish how many medals O's had, how many medals Ankh had, how many medals so and so had, and like it was all about the count and like distribution of power, which I thought was quite a nice little quirk to the series in general. But then seeing Eiji kind of develop his powers and like the one that everyone argues to the end of the earth is all about Putotira. So like for me, the pinnacle of the story was when he did get Putotira's form. And it looked amazing. And I'm a big fan of purple slash violet anyway. So I absolutely love the look of that form. Actually, this leads straight into the next topic. So, like, what did we think? What did you? All right. So, going on to you, what did you think of the look of the series and the devices and stuff?
right. Starting off with the device, I thought it was a nice getaway. Nice, small,
It's
simple, and
simple.
even
Simple.
yeah. And it had a scanner. It had a reader, if you
Scanning
will,
charge. Okay.
which we don't really see. I mean, um, I'm just trying to remember when we had because the last time we had a scan orientated thing. Forgive me, I can't remember the order, but I know that Drive had a infrared. I think.
A
Correct me if I'm
what?
wrong. Didn't wait. Drive
He had
wouldn't
like a
Drive
wrist
had a
bracelet and a belt at the same time. He'd put his
but
shift car
it
into the wrist belt, and
yeah,
then it'd power up
but
through the
it
belt.
reads off it. But it
Yeah.
reads off it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then you had,
Okay.
but when it comes to scan, Wizard, that's scanned.
Oh, okay. I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
Right. O's scans. And that's why I'm asking, who else scans?
That's a good question. Well, technically, Dano did.
Yes, yes, that's right.
I don't know. I've never really thought about that. I mean, Ryuki technically didn't.
No, that's insert. Like, like Kabuto was an insert.
Yeah, it's like the. And then fires was the phone. The decade was an insert. Double insert, scan charge. And yeah, I mean this is it because technically drive was insert into the wrist. I mean, because Mio, it would be. I mean, pre O's would be Deno. Yeah, I'd say just Deno really. I mean, because even Showa. I mean, because it was because a lot of the Showa riders were very kinetic in the way that theirs powered up.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd probably say mainly just Deno really.
But as a whole, I love how when you put the medals in, the reader would just, oh sorry, the combo voice or the belt voice would just recognize what medal or animal you're putting in, reads it, and
then
then
announces
just
it.
says exactly all of them. And if it's a combo, then he would say all the combos in its
Taka,
jingle.
Tora, Bata. Anyway, but
Yeah, in its
okay, so
jingle.
like when it comes to the Henshin belt, like I kind of like the coin system. Like having a separate scanner, like disc scanner thing, so I went across. I mean, it looks cool. Like doing the Henshin action looks cool, but having a separate kind of because I've got I've got the Shintoku Seiho of that as well, and it's just like it just literally looks like a paddle. I'm like, why does he have to carry this around as well? But it's because I think he could have probably done that without the big disc thing. And then kind of like the aesthetic look. I mean, when it comes, I mean, especially the Tata Tora Bata combination. It's just so colourful. And then when they start to like simplify it and make it like all red, all green, all yellow, it kind of. I mean, again, I felt a bit mixed depending. So like Tajador, I wasn't too hot on the Tajador look. If I'm
Oh, I
honest.
love Tajado, but I'll get to
But
that. I'll get to that.
Puto Tira, all purple and like the dinosaur vibe, definitely liked it. And then maybe the blue one, if I vaguely remember what it looked
Yeah.
like. Whereas the green one to me looked ugly.
Okay, may I?
Yeah, go.
Because right, so from my least to favorite is the blue aquatic one. I can't remember the
So
form
you
name
did
of
like the
it.
blue one?
Not really.
Okay.
It's okay. It was mediocre. Then you had La Torrata, which was the yellow one.
I vaguely remember what that looked like. Really,
The lion, cheetah,
cheetah.
whatever one.
I
Yeah,
remember it was mainly a
something.
cheetah vibe, wasn't it?
It's a lion. I can't remember what the middle was, and then cheetah.
Well,
And then you
Tora would have been the middle one because it was the middle one in the basic form. Taka
probably.
Tora Bata.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true actually. And then you had Katakiriba, which is the green one, all insects.
Yeah, but
So
this is it. Like that'd be bottom right. Even though I'm not doing top to bottom, I'd say worst is green and best is purple. But yeah, go on.
and then you had Tajadol for me, which I actually like. I like that, and I love. By the way, we'll get to music, but I love that
Time Judge
song.
Door, of course you do.
I love that.
Time Judge Door, yeah.
Then Sagozo, which is the grey one, which is gorilla, rhino,
I vaguely remember
um,
that. I vaguely
and
remember that.
elephant.
Right. Okay.
I love that. Actually like that. It was very beefy, burly. And then yes, Putotera at the end. I love Putotera, which I actually own a SH Figure Arts Putotera combo.
Ah, all right. Fair enough. Okay,
I do
but
like that.
just to touch quickly, I mean, we've talked about the Henshin
Although,
device and that. Yeah.
just quickly, sorry, I was going to say, I will admit I do like the Tatoba combo, the base combo. It at first it did give me like a very jungle-esque vibe to it,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Sure. I get that.
But but after seeing all these forms, I guess I only well anyway, that's at the end I'll mention again, but I love seeing these different forms like the green one, the yellow one, the blue one, the red one, the grey one, the purple one, if you get what I mean.
Sure.
Granted, some of you mesh the others just because of what you have, fine, but still, when you get these actual combos, they actually look good, I have to admit.
Okay, I mean, just to touch me, so like we touched on the armor, and like in terms of the general, in terms of their general everyday look, I'll say like with AG, he had that kind of quirky hippie fashion, especially like where his main concern was his underwear anyway. But then, I would say like you had Ank with his like general fashion, you had the head of the corporation with his pink suit. And then I'll be honest, everyone else was quite forgetful, although Hina was always the waitress anyway, like the kind of really quirky maid, if you will.
There's one suit we've just almost completely flicked past. Birth.
I remember
I
him
will
more
admit,
in leathers, really.
no. I'm talking about his. Um,
Oh, his actual armor. Yeah. Okay.
yes, I like Birth's
It's
armor, as in his
simple.
henshin armor.
It's simple. It's not too. I mean, it's almost generic because I think that was kind of the idea because he used the generic coins, for example.
Correct.
So like it's kind of simple. I mean, maybe a little understated, but like it's all right. But I wouldn't. This is
And
it. Like
then
I actually had forgotten about it. But yeah, sure, why
and
not?
then and then you had his birthday form as well, which he used maybe once or twice in the season.
I actually don't
But
remember. I don't remember. No.
no, it's basically a mechanical scorpion that basically disassembles and pretty much goes all of his on his body, and then
I
basically that's
vaguely
it.
remember something like that. It's so long ago since I watched it, to
Well,
be
I have a
fair.
thing for scorpions, so
Of course you do. So, what episode stood out for you?
Jackal.
No, see, like I've already mentioned it. Like for me, the ones that stood out for me was the Puto Tira story arc, where we see AG go absolutely mental and trying to
Oh
control
yeah,
the
he went
power,
huge.
and like it had a good story development to it. And again, like you really get to see the alternative side of the corporation. And again, just seeing Surabashi Man kind of really come out as some really wacko villain, that was all. Those were two arcs that stood out for me personally. All right, but swiftly moving on. What do we think of the set locations in O's?
I can vaguely remember the calf, if anything,
Well,
and
that's
that
it. I mean, I've
when
already mentioned. Oh, I'm just going to interrupt, lol.
no,
Uh,
no, I mean,
yeah,
I
that's
was
it. So
going to say
like the
sorry, I didn't mean
cafe, the cafe was like where you had like the maitre d. She'd be like, "Oh, this week we're doing crazy stuff." It's like they were always like she's always like trying to drum business in. I kind of like that, and the cafe itself, again, it had that kind of jungle cafe vibe anyway. So you had that, and then you had the office of the corporation. I can't remember
yeah.
the name of the corporation. I'm so rubbish. Um, so yeah, you had this office, which was generic office, if I'm honest. And then like you had like the Greed's underground layer, which was it kind of had like a very shower vibe to it, which I actually did appreciate. But then ultimately, kind of the outdoor sets, the fighting sets, like especially like the sets where Puto Tiro was on the beach and stuff, those fight scenes, even though it kind of detracted massively from the main sets, it was still like a welcome change. It just kind of broke it up a little bit, you know? Right, well, I'm just going to go out straight out and say I don't, even though I've seen the movies and the specials and that, and like O's had, because I think O's did have like a massive anniversary special as well, but I remember nothing.
Not me. I haven't
Wow,
seen
we are
it.
so good at reviewing stuff.
I
Right.
know, right?
So let's talk about the music. So you already mentioned it, but I'm just gonna go straight into it. So like you got the OP, which I absolutely love singing to, and I did rap to it in front of Tokyo Dome, which is great. But as well, Time Judged All is an amazing track, and I think this was pre Kamen Rider Girls era as well, and kind of just as Rider Chips was like kind of weaning off. So just I mean, because Ank, the actor for Ank, is actually an artist. He's a J-pop artist. But just having that on there, and like I don't know if you've seen like this was like, this was like this is definitely pre-Gaim where like not only was one of the actors an established artist, but then they did like in those live and shows they kind of went out and they did these extravagant music numbers, like seeing Time Judged All live was absolutely amazing on DVD. Yeah, like I saw it
And
on DVD,
for
but them
all
doing
of
it
them,
live was cool. It was
for all of
amazing.
them, I will
Exactly.
stress it's for all the combos.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I do remember hearing tato ba. Like, it was like tato ba, tato ba. I remember that one, but because I think because Time Judge Door was specifically for Tajador.
Do you know who sang it?
It was Ank.
And AG.
Yeah. I know they sang it together, but it was mainly him. Yeah, because it was Tajador, because he was the red one, wasn't he? Oh well.
And then you had the this AG singing Putotira combo with the singer that did the ending to Abba Ranger.
Oh, that must. This is it. I mean, it's been a while since I've heard all the songs together. But yeah, I mean, because again, for me, Tato Bar, because I think the name of that song was actually Shining Star or something. Or no, it had like some really quirky name. It wasn't Shining Star. That was Forze. It had a unique title, but then the Tajador song was named Time Judge Door. So those are the two that stood out for me. And again, the others I did hear and I do vaguely remember. Or I don't really remember, but it did all sound generally good.
I mean, me personally, if for the music wise, I love Time Shazero or Tajado, as well as the Putotira combo. Um, the Sagozo one was is all right. Then the opening itself was a very unique.
I wouldn't say it was unique, but I did like it.
No, for me, see, I'm two ways about that opening. Um, it was energetic, just it wasn't one of my top whatevers. It's not.
Well, this is it because you had. I mean, even though because I was watching them in reverse order as I do, but no, actually, I watched these in forward order actually because you had double, which was boy, again male female duet, and so was O's. Only I'd say O's was because it was a little slower. I actually appreciate because you had the girl who was the softer vocal, you had the male who was the harder vocal, which and they slowed it
Exactly.
down a little
That's
bit
what I
in
just
general
couldn't
comparison
get.
to double, say, and I actually liked it.
No, but see, from my angle though, as much as it was a duet and such, and it worked in its own way, I just couldn't really get the male side of it because it was so gruff, if that makes sense. It was so
The
deep.
show we waiting
Like,
for. Count the medals, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, of course.
exactly. But it was very heavy though. And I just, at the time, I just couldn't really get around to it really. Or I just couldn't, nah, it wasn't really for me, unfortunately.
No worries. Well, moving on. What did we think of the choreography and fighting of O's?
All I remember is when AG hit his super slash Putotila mode, that he was vicious. Especially when, and going back to a category that we missed with the weapons, when he had his axe, um, he just slaughtered. That's all I remember.
Well, this is
But
kind of a
otherwise,
really weird thing because, like, I actually, like, I barely remember. Because the thing is, when it came to the weapons and artillery in general, again, that was all sponsored by the corporation. He had to put the coins in the machine and stuff, which was quite quirky. Again, it just added to the craziness of the show. And yeah, I mean, alright. So just to cover the weapons quickly, like, because the thing is, like, because you had all that going on, but then yeah, like I don't even remember him having an
actually,
axe, but I do remember him having a sword. I remember him like having a bike that, again he had to put money in the machine for it. And again, like we should have covered this earlier, but like again, it was very vague because it was kind of like it was like they were parodying their own gimmick in doing that, and and parodying the whole fact that like the massive myth in the West is that Japan likes its crazy vending machines. So that doesn't help having that in there.
and the bike was a vending machine, right?
It was the vending machine itself, yeah. But that's it. But that's why this show was so crazy. That's exactly it. But then, but then it's like, even though they mellowed out as the series progressed, you still had Birth walking around with a jar full of these coins, these medals. But I think they were actually coins because they were just the plain grey ones.
Yep.
But still, when it came to the fighting, still, like, I remember that kind of animalistic vibe where, it could be easily compared to Amazon, but, but then it was all about CGI, so there wasn't so much fighting, because the problem that Amazon had was the first half was all animalistic and sort of like gnawing into your villain of the week kind of thing. But then randomly in the second half, he just started doing martial art, whereas, we don't really see Eiji established as a kind of pronounced fighter. But he was kind of fighting with the powers, and then you got like Ankh, kind of almost in that Deno vibe. Like you got Ankh kind of influencing him as well, and whatever the hell was going on with that arm.
I can see that. That's a good example. That's a good example. No, I agree that in regards to how you have your main protagonist meeting with the secondary protagonist, and they have this buddy cop kind of chemistry that carries on for the duration of the season. I get that with Deno. Yeah. Though one thing, by the way, if I can add in regards to devices and merch, mind you, is do you remember the Animal Rider cans?
Yeah, again, yeah, of course, because that was something that, like it was kind of part of its thing, and it was, like when it comes to the Kamen Rider franchise in general, it kind of comes and goes anyway. So, like, O's, it kind of re-emerged. Prior to that, you kind of had Hibiki, maybe. Post O's, you probably had, I want to say Wizards.
With what?
Yeah, like, again, that kind of gimmicky kind of, little gadget thing that will go out and scout around or whatever. I mean, because I know Build definitely had it as well, and, Wizard had it. So, it's again,
hang on a minute. Which one's the one that had the discs?
Hibiki.
Oh, okay.
Because he'd have his tuning fork, he'd spin the disc, and then fling it. And it'd turn into a bird or a frog or whatever. I didn't like Hibiki.
No,
Anyways.
but with those had the cans that you open and it turns into a bird or a gorilla, whatever. But I don't remember what was Wizards?
It was the different rings. He'd scan one of the rings and then something would pop out. And then there was one, which one had the massive lizard? I think that was Wizard. Yeah, because because it's all based on magic and shit, wasn't it? Never mind. Well, whichever one had the massive lizard in it, because I'm pretty sure Wizard also had the massive lizard in it.
Yes. They had the pirate ship.
Yeah, there you go. So Wizard had that as well. It had it all going on. So moving on, what did we think of like the final arcs and climax to thing? Sorry, let me just edit that bit out. So, what did you think of the final arcs and climax to O's?
Again, unfortunately, I don't remember.
I'll be honest, I remember Sodal. I mean, I remember, I think Hina's brother had a happy. I said that a bit wrong. Hina's brother kind of went back to normal, I believe. Ankh disappeared, and they all went back to running the cafe. But then we do see in Geo that he does have like a sort of super future, whatever. Like, because
Geo?
in Geo, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, because he was like in a massive temple thing, wasn't he? Have you not seen the O's arc in Geo?
I'm sure I did, but it was
it involved like Xaid and stuff, Dan Carotto and all that. Yeah, because the Geo arc was kind of really crisscross. Because it involved both Xaid and O's at the same time.
Interesting.
You don't remember that?
Wasn't that the one when they went to the castle?
Yeah. What did I say? I said temple, but yeah, it all kind of looked the same kind of thing.
either way. But as a whole, your thoughts on the overall story, climax, yada 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 of the
Yeah,
series?
see, that's it. I mean, it was like, you know, it ended. You know, it was an okay series. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, you know, this is probably something I would recommend to like, you know, someone who's already established watching Rider. It's like, all right, well, now that you're familiar with some of the Rider themes, you know, depending on what they might have watched prior, I might say, yeah, go on to O's. I mean, not necessarily to someone who like, because the problem with the eccentricity of the series is it mellows out as the series progresses. And yeah, like it's got a few of those typical superhero vibes. I mean, yeah, maybe a step down from Peter Parker if you really want to go there. And yeah, like maybe those who like the superhero type shows might relate to Ank a little bit. Um, but yeah, like maybe someone who's watched a couple of Rider series already, I might say, yeah, go check out O's.
For me, I would say O's is something you should not watch as a first-time rider watcher.
I'll agree with that.
Um, Pardon?
I'll agree with that.
I would say it's more if you are a completist, yes, sure. Um, if you just want to binge something, and if you're bored, then sure.
I
But
wouldn't necessarily say completist because like completist is like if you really like if you didn't like it. I mean because yeah I think it's a decent series. I
wait,
think
no,
someone
no,
who's
no, no,
watched a
hang on.
couple maybe. Yeah.
No, no, no. But what I mean by completist is it's not as bad as something forgetful and arduous, say like fours. Whereas in this circumstance, this is only forgetful in my head, and then in this circumstance, it has a more than all right opening. It has some fantastic and quite a few, like over
It
half
has
a
some good
dozen
story
forms.
arcs and some strong characters. Admittedly.
No, no, no. But what I mean is also by just forms. You know, like all the different bug form, lion form, whatever form, X, Y, Z.
But that's kind of the
But
thing
it has
because someone who might not be familiar with Rider might just be like, oh, this is like too many combinations, or like it might give them a bit of fatigue just working it out. So, like again, as long as they've seen, as long as they're kind of familiar with kind of the tropes of Rider, then, sure, definitely check it out.
well, again, definitely not for a first timer. I will agree to that. But um, if you just want, let's say, if you've someone that's watched the Rider series, you know the general gist, and you want another one for the just cause of it, then yeah, sure, go for it. But I will premise this is not in my top end of memorable Rider series. I will premise that.
Agreed. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. So this has been our review of O's. You can check us out, the Toku Bros, at Facebook, Instagram, as well as this YouTube channel, and Twitter at Toku Bros 71. And myself, RyuKiva or RyuKiva Toku. I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can pledge on my Patreon. And my fan sub blog WordPress is ryukivatoku.wordpress.com.
You can also catch me at the Winter Cosplayer at both Facebook and Instagram. And as per usual, and just like good old times, fist through the cam.
Fist through the cam. See you next time. 38 minutes.